It's a very special night tonight, because tonight really is the launch of a new initiative, and that is our online Beit Midrash, because people feel more comfortable being at home, but we don't want to lose the Beit Midrash feel. And part of the Beit Midrash feel is that there's things happening, and it's not just one shiur that people go to, but rather there's an array. We go into Beit Midrash. There's a sound of learning, and there's a sound of Torah being studied and imbibed by everybody there. And we want to try and model that and try and do something. So therefore, Rav Alon and myself decided, let's give the shiur at the same time. But how do you give the shiur at the same time? Because then you're on one Zoom and someone's on another Zoom. So what we decided to do, and I'm sorry we don't have tea and coffee available for everybody, is to bring everybody in to the base Midrash, or L'chaim, depending on what you'd like, is to bring everybody into the base Midrash. So this is the base Midrash. And in this incredible base Midrash, what we're going to do is we're going to divide up people to wherever they want to go. That there are two breakout rooms. The one is Rav Alon's, the one is mine. And please choose whichever shiur you want to go to. Rav Alon, I think you're speaking on Kitniot, from what I recall. Is that correct?
Tonight's not Kitniot. It wasn't in order. Tonight is a bit about the Pesach Seder.
Sorry. Okay, so tonight's a bit about the Pesach Seder.
No problem.
Sorry? Okay. And I'm speaking about this year is a special year. It's a year where EREV Pesach falls out on SHABBOS, and there are quite a few changes that we have to look at. And so we're going to look at that. So please, I'm now going to open up the breakout rooms. Please feel free to choose whichever room you'd like to go to. If you
please feel comfortable to go wherever you want. It's not please.
There's no anything. Please feel free to go wherever you want to go.
One of us are going to lose our jobs if whoever's got less or more is going to lose their job. So
I think there was a bonus actually for the person who had more. I'm not sure.
Oh, it was a bonus. It was a bonus.
Yeah. You get additional shiurim to give.
So don't feel.
Please don't anybody feel in any way obliged to go anything specific. Just go to what you want to go. Rav Alon speaking on some of the Seder. I'm speaking on some of the stuff that's going to happen this year before Pesach. Please go. If you know how to join, please join. If you don't, then just let us know, and we can assign you to the specific rooms as need be. So
if you see, guys, at the bottom, it says breakout room. It says breakout room, and then a person can just join whichever room they would like. It says Rav Alon, Rav Jonny. Go for it.
If you're not sure how to do it, just let us know, and then we'll allocate you into a room, and then we'll begin. So, Rav Alon, I'm glad my parents are coming to me at least. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. Would love to see a couple of faces if you don't mind. If you don't mind, it would be great. Just making sure that everybody has a room and goes into their room. If you'll excuse me for a minute, I'm just going to go back, make sure that everybody's been assigned, and then I will I'll come back. Hi everyone, can I help everybody to assign you to a specific room? Anybody wants to go to Rav Alon, go to myself. The breakout rooms are open, so if you just let me know, then I'll assign you to a room. I've got EM. Where would you like to go? If you can just let me know, then I'll assign you to Rav Alon or myself. Please don't feel pressurized in any way to go anywhere. Mike, can I help you to assign you to a room? Terry,
I've already chose to be in your room.
Okay, so. Great. But you're still here, so I'm going to move you.
Okay, that's fine.
Cool. Zev, can I help you to get to a room? Zev, Mike, and iPhone. If you can, Mike, can I assign you to a room? can't hear you. You're on mute.
Can I hop from one to the other? I've got to go.
No, you can.
One,
It's your call. You can just go wherever you're wanting to.
So I'm on my iPhone as opposed to an iPad, and I don't see that.
I'm not sure. Okay, so who should I assign you to now? Just let me know, and I'll send you with pleasure. Avi, you please choose a room, myself or Rav Alon, and assign yourself to it. Mark, let me know which one you want to go to. I'll put. I'm not sure where it is on the iPhone. You're on mute. Can't hear you.
Let me start with Alon.
Sure. Okay, you've gone. Okay, Avi Joseph, he's gone. Zev Green, who can I help you with? Okay. Zev, I'm going to go and join. I'm going to go join my room. So if you will excuse me, Zev, can I help you just to assign you to someone before I go? Okay. Okay, everybody. Hello. Well, sorry about that. Just had to make sure that everybody is there. Okay. So nice to see so many people wanting to learn a little bit of Torah and to understand what's happening in this year. It's quite a complicated year. And what I'm going to do is, oh gosh, hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you just to show you the things that we need to look at. And once we've looked at those things, then we can then we'll start with the actual technical discussions that in the shir itself, because there are a number of things that we really need to look at in a very profound way and in a very careful way, because it impacts on our experience this year of Pesach. So if you can see my screen, let's go to the beginning. Sorry, there we go. So EREV Pesach on Shabbos. EREV Pesach is always a busy time. We know that it's a busy time, and we're busy with the busyness of the time of EREV Pesach, because we're trying to prepare to go into Pesach, and there's so many things to do, and many of those things are preparing for the Seder itself, the actual cooking and all the other things that we do. But there are other things that we have to do as well. And normally what we find is that on an EREV Pesach, these are the things that we worry about. The first thing is the Tani Bechorot, or the Tani Bechorim, the fast of the firstborn. For those who are firstborns, or those who have children who are firstborns, which anyone who has a child will have a firstborn somewhere. But there's Bedikat Chametz, which is the night before Pesach. There's the beer, there's the burning of the Chometz. And this year, it's on Shabbos. So we've got to think about the Shabbos meals themselves. So what I'd like to look at firstly is the concept of the Tanit Bechorot. Where do we get this thing called the Tanit Bechorot? Where do we get this idea of this fast of the firstborn that we all have to engage with? So what I'd like to do again is to show you that it's all coming out of halakha. It's all coming out of the depth of the things that we engage with. And let's have a look through the sources and begin to understand. Again, I'm going to share my screen because I'd like everybody to be able to see, for those who'd like to see it. So it says the first thing is the Shulchan Aruch tells us Haberchorot mitanim be'erev Pesach. The firstborn have to fast EREV Pesach. Bein bechor me'av, bein bechor me'aim. Whether they are the bechor, the firstborn of the father, or the firstborn of the mother. Now that's an interesting one, because normally when we speak about firstborns, we specifically speak about the firstborn of the mother. That we have this concept of Pidyon HaBen, the redemption of the firstborn. That's about the mother. But when it comes to EREV Pesach, there's something special about the firstborn, and we know that clearly has an indication, and it clearly has a reflection on the final makah, the final plague, which was the killing of the firstborn. And what happens is that we know that the firstborn in Mitzrayim were killed also, whether they were the firstborn of the mother, firstborn of the father, and that's why every single house in Mitzrayim had multiple deaths in their homes, and the firstborn are fundamental. They're fundamental within the Jewish people as well. Always have a sense of precedence. However, they lost that sense of precedence after the Egel HaZahav, after the golden calf, and that's what we read about this week's parsha actually. And how did they lose it? Because what happens is that there's this whole golden calf story that is happening. The firstborns are supposed to be the examples, the leaders, the ones who are going to make sure that the Jewish people are doing what they need to do, and they don't. And not only that, when Moshe Rabbeinu comes down and he breaks the luchot and he crushes up the egel and he gets and he flushes it down and he's ready now, he's got to take some type of punishment for those who are involved, and he calls out Mila Hashem Elai. Who are those who are going to be with me to Hashem? The Bechorim, the firstborns, do not respond. The ones that respond are the Levim. The whole nation of Levi respond, and because the nation of Levi respond, they begin to be the ones who are meriting to be the ones who serve in the Beit HaMikdash, which the Bechorim should have had that merit, but they lost it. And so therefore, a beautiful idea is, why do we have the fast of the firstborn EREV Pesach? Because EREV Pesach is the time where every single person within the Jewish people, right, within their family units, has to bring a Korban Pesach. You can imagine how many korbanot were brought on EREV Pesach in the Beit HaMikdash. There's hundreds and hundreds and thousands and just people moving in and out and in and out, and the sheep are being shechted and they're being tied up and they're being offered. There's an enormous amount happening. And you can imagine that the Bechorim, the firstborns, are watching this. And they're seeing the Levim running from one place to the other. And they see the Kohanim serving. And they see the fires burning. And they see everything that is happening. And they say, oh, wow, we could have been part of this. We could have been the ones that are doing this. We could have been the ones that are helping Am Yisrael. But our forefathers didn't do anything. And so therefore, we have to go through a process of, in a way, like group tshuva, group return, group repentance, group atonement for what we did. And how do they do that? Through the process of the fast. And so therefore, some people say that just because it's about firstborns, that even as the Shulchan Aruch says, some people say even the firstborn girl should fast. But that's great. We understand the fast of the firstborn on a very basic level. But then what happens when Imchal Erev Pesach b'Shabbos? What happens when EREV Pesach falls on Shabbos? Because now you can't fast on Shabbos. You normally fast EREV Pesach. So when are you going to fast? So comes Yesh Omrim. There are those who say Shemit Anim HaBechorim b'Yom Hay, that the Bechorim should fast when? On Yom Hay, on Thursday. For Yesh Omrim Sha'en Mit Anim Klal. There are those who say they shouldn't fast at all. But now there's a fascinating, just a technical insight here. When the Shulchan Aruch brings two opinions, we normally go by the second opinion. But the Ramah, Rav Moshe Isserles, who writes glosses on the Shulchan Aruch, says, Aval yesh linhog kesvara rishona. But our minhag is not to go according to the second opinion, which says we shouldn't fast, but actually to go according to the first opinion, which says that we should fast on the Thursday. And that is in fact what we do. So we fast on the Thursday. Well, firstborns fast on the Thursday. Now, there's a very important thing that we have. We have this concept of that, although the fast happens on EREV Pesach, most people don't fast. I don't know any firstborns who really have fasted. And why don't they fast? Because we've got a little bit of a thing. And that little bit of a thing is called the siyum. What we do is we have the practice that even though there should be fasting, since, as the Mishnah Berurah points out, that that this fast is just a custom. It's not a major fast. That's quite amazing, because whilst it's not a major fast, we find Bechorim, firstborns, kind of like come out of the cracks during this time. People who even who don't normally come to shul come because they need to eat, because they need to have a siyum. So they need to have a siyum in order to eat, and so they come out of the cracks. And even though it's just a minhag, and it's such a powerful thing, because somehow the Bechorim, these firstborns, are connecting into that almost painful space that they are having, because they didn't act when Moshe Rabbeinu called on the Jewish people. But the thing is as follows: is that why did the rabbis allow a siyum in this case? So, for example, if it's Tanit Esther, or any of the other Tanyot, any of the other fasts, you can't say, oh, well, you know what, I'm going to make a siyum and I don't have to fast on Tisha B'Av. I'm going to make a siyum and I don't have to fast on the 17th of Tammuz. That doesn't exist. How come on this one we do? So the answer is quite simple. Because you're going into Pesach Seder. And nobody wants to go into the Pesach Seder having fasted, feeling shvach, And so therefore, Chazal said, fine, don't worry. Well, we can make a siyum if you can. But this year is different. And I've seen fascinating writings on both sides. Some say you shouldn't fast at all, as we saw from the Shulchan Aruch. But there is an opinion, and it's a very, very powerful opinion that many hold, and some of the great Gedolim today hold, and they say when it is on a Thursday night, which is 2 days before Pesach, the reason for the siyum, which was so that you wouldn't have to go into Pesach, into the Seder feeling shvach and starving, the reason for the siyum is no longer there. And so dafka, they say, perhaps you should fast. Now that's a personal choice. I'm not telling you to fast or not to fast. I'm just telling you what the two studim are. But if a person does fast, then comes along the Mishnah Berurah and says, by the way, you shouldn't, it's similar to we've just had with the fast of Esther and then reading the Megillah, you shouldn't eat until you've done, which we're going to discuss now, the bedikat chometz, the checking of the chometz. And that's why it says, if it's hard for them to fast on that Thursday, because you've got to go look for chometz on the night. Sometimes a person's got a lot of rooms. You know, in the old days they had a room, a room, and a room which had the kitchen, everything in, and a bedroom, and that was the place they had to look for. As we got more wealthy and we more sophisticated, we got more rooms. Can you imagine? You fast the whole day, and you got to go check every single room in your house, and not only the rooms in your house, because the bedika also applies, and we're going to that now. The bedika applies to your office, to your car, all these places. Then you've been fasting. He says, you know what? Even though normally person normally wouldn't be able to eat before the bedika, you know what? You know what? You can have a little bit to eat before the bedika, before he makes the check of all the chometz, or you can ask somebody else to check, and they can eat. Now, by the way, that's a very big deviation from the basics of how we do mitzvot. Because when we do mitzvot, we try not to have a situation where other people do that on our behalf. Rather, we try and do the mitzvot. We try and do the mitzvot on our own. But here, because the person's starving, he doesn't want to eat until the bedika is done. He gets somebody else to do the bedika. Once the person's done the bedika, then he can get on. Okay, so that's bedikat chometz. Bedikat chometz has to happen when? Bedikat chometz has to happen on the night before. The tani b'chorim has to happen on the Thursday before. When do you do the bedikat chometz? When is it going to be the time to do the actual checking? So now let's work it out. If you would normally do it EREV Pesach, which you normally would do, so it would have to be a Friday night. You can't do bedikas chometz on a Friday night. So therefore comes the Shulchan Aruch and says, Yud Dalet on the 14th, Shechal Yot b'Shabbos, when the 14th, which is the EREV Pesach, falls on Shabbos, Bodkim Leil Yud Gimel. When do you do the check? You check on the night before, meaning on Thursday night. So now let's just try and figure out how this is working, right? You've got Thursday night, you do a check. After you've done your check on Thursday night, what do you then have to do? Then you've got to do, if we do make a bracha on the check, we do the check, and then we do the kol chamira. We do that, the first part of the, they call it voiding, the voiding of the chometz. And normally what we would do then is that the next morning, we would then do the full bittul chometz. We say, we burn it, we do the kol chamira and everything. But you can't do that now because you've checked for your chometz on your Thursday night, but you still got 2 days, well, a day and a half to eat chometz, because you can eat chometz on Friday. There's no issue of eating chometz on Friday. And you can also eat chometz up to a certain point in time on Shabbos day as well. So you can't be mevatel, you can't void, you can't nullify all of the chometz yet. So you check it on Thursday night. What do you do on Friday? When are you going to burn it? Because you can't burn it on Shabbos, which is EREV Pesach. So you've got to burn it on Friday. But when would you burn it on Friday? We know that you can eat chometz all the way up till Shabbos early morning, and we're going to go into that now. So when are you supposed to burn it? So our sages told them, the Shulchan Aruch says that the way you should do it is that you should burn it on the Friday as at the same time as if it was actually EREV Pesach. Why? because we don't want a person to be cut to, let's say somebody's never done biur chometz before. So now they've learned the halachas, they came to the shir, they understand what they have to do, they do bedikas chometz on Thursday nights, and now they've got to burn. Now they don't know the whole spiel about the fact that that they can still eat on the whole day of Friday. They're not really aware of that because they're new in this game. So they see Chaim Shmerel burning his chometz at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So they say, oh, okay, now I understand what I have to do. Every year I've got to burn my chometz at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So Chazal said we have to be very careful with that. Optics are fundamental. Marit ayin, all these things, but this is not Marit ayin, this is just the guy gets the wrong idea. So therefore, we burn the chometz at the same time that we would have done had it actually been EREV Pesach, and this year it's 10:45. Okay, so before 10:45 on Friday morning, we've got to make sure that we burn our chometz. So now what I want to show you is the next step in the biur chometz. So what have we got here? Thursday night in biur chometz, as you can all see, I hope you can all see my screen. Thursday night, you search. And you search with the normal kol chamira, the normal way you would do your normal bedikas chometz, where the Shulchan Aruch says, as we all know, you take a few pieces and you put them around and you go and you search for them. Why do we put pieces out? We put pieces in order that we don't want to make a bracha levatzolah, a blessing in vain. So if there's no chometz, I mean, Baruch Hashem, in our houses, we make sure that everything is clean. So there probably isn't chometz, and you have to go buy. I know many years it's happened. Like you have to go buy some chometz in order to search for the chometz. They're going to destroy it the next day, or borrow from next door. But because you've cleaned it out, chometz is not a thing. So you put a few pieces down in order not to make the bracha levatzolah. If you didn't put a few pieces down, this is an important halacha. That's a minhag. It's not an absolutely necessary thing. Because if you didn't put a few pieces down and you still decided to go and you did your bedikas chometz and you checked and you did not find one iota of chometz in your house, that is fantastic because you still fulfilled the mitzvah of bedikas chometz, and then there's just nothing to burn. So if you've got nothing to burn, it's not a problem. Okay, so we've got biur chometz. Then what happens on Friday morning? Friday morning we said that you got to burn before the end of the 5th hour. In Joburg, that's 10:45, but you don't say kol chamira. Why don't you say kol the chamira? Because you can't be mavatal. You still got to eat for another day. And so therefore, what happens is the next step in the story is that Shabbos morning, you got to be finished eating your chometz by the normal time that you'd have to be finished chometz. And that is by the beginning of by the end of the 5th hour, in this case, by 10 a.m. By 10 a.m. this year, you have to be finished eating your chometz. At the same time, you mustn't forget to do the bittul chometz, the kol chamira, on Shabbos morning at 10:45. So this is the biur chometz. We've looked at the Tanit B'chorim. Now we're going to come out to one of the most complicated parts. And that is fundamental. Your Shabbos dinner and your Shabbos, let's say, lunch, and your Shabbos shudas on Shabbos as well. As we know, we're allowed to eat chometz on Shabbos. Okay, so since we're allowed to eat chometz on Shabbos, should we eat chometz on Shabbos? Can we eat chometz on Shabbos? What should we do? So let's start. We've got number one and fundamental for us to remember. On a Shabbos day, it's not supper and lunch. On a Shabbos day, we've got a mitzvah to eat 3 meals. We eat supper, we eat what we call lunch, and then we have Sudash Nishit. Now, we understand supper is easy. We understand that the first meal of the day, call it lunch, is easy. Shalosh Shudas, the Sudash Nishit, is a little bit more complicated, and let's try and have a look at that. Because we know that for all those 3 meals, according to the strict reading of the Shulchan Aruch, for all those 3 meals, what we should be doing is that we should be having what's called lechem mishneh. Lechem mishneh means 2 full loaves. As we do normally on a Shabbos, we take 2 full loaves and we make our motzi on them at night and in the morning and in the afternoon on a Shabbos afternoon for Sudash Nishit. So we have these loaves. Now, obviously, the issue is going to be it's EREV Pesach. Who in their right mind has 6 loaves of bread in their house, EREV Pesach, in order to use them on the Shabbos. I mean, it's just like, would be even, to contemplate that is very difficult. You're allowed to have it, because there's no issue of having chometz during that time. So according to many, that's what we should do. What we should do is we should take the bread, make kamotzi. Either you can have it inside. You can have it. Remember, there's no issue of having the bread inside EREV Pesach. There's no issue. It's just the issue of the fact that then you're going to leave chometz all over. So you can have it inside. You can have it outside. Ideally, the poskim say the best thing to do in order to avoid any problems is have it. If you're going to have bread, and we'll see there's 2 options. If you're going to have bread, have your bread outside. Make kiddush, have your bread outside. Do it on disposables. Obviously, I mean, who's going to wash? You're going to go wash your nice dishes with your bread dishes. Do it on disposables. Do it outside. And then when you're finished eating your bread, you can either give it away, or you give it to your dog, or you can even flush it down the toilet, because it has to be destroyed. You can't have it any longer. You can give it to your maid, and she just take it on her own. So that is one way of doing it. But let's try and understand it, because if you're going to have the bread, the Friday night is easy. Shabbos morning, we saw that you can't eat chometz after 10 a.m. So how do you do that? Because you've got to have 3 meals. So there is one way of doing it, and that is that you daven early, which is what most shuls will be doing this year. Daven early, you come home, you wash, you have a little bit of your lunch or whatever the meal is, you bench, you wait a little bit, maybe learn some Torah with the family, sing a couple of Pesach songs in preparation, then you wash again, and on another 2 loaves, and now you've eaten 3 meals with bread. Okay, that's one way of doing it. However, there is a little bit of a sting in that tail. And what the sting in that tail is, and I'll show it to you now on the screen, what the sting in that tail is that when it comes to Su'udah Shlishit, sorry, I just want to find it here. When it comes to the Su'udah Shlishit, if you can see here, says the Shulchan Aruch, Zmana, the time for Su'udah Shlishit, is Mishiagia Zmana Mincha. Ideally, the time is when the time for Mincha arrives. The time for Mincha arrives is around 12:30. It's 6.5 hours into the day, 6.5 halachic hours into the day. So you should only really eat the Su'udah Shlishit after that time. And if that's the time, that's the case, says, if you eat it before, then you have not fulfilled your mitzvah of Su'udah Shlishit. Sure. So now you've got a problem. You want to eat all these 6 loaves. But you want to eat all these 6 loaves, but you can't really eat all the 6 loaves, because according to the way we just learned from the halacha from the Shulchan Aruch, that is what? That the Su'udah Shlishit should only be eaten after 6.5 hours into the day. So this is what I'm about to tell you now is really the solution for EREV Shabbos for EREV Pesach that falls out on Shabbos. How do we eat? Obviously, that's our most important thing. Very important. So let's go. In the mix that we can throw in is something that we don't usually bring into our Pesach whatsoever. And that's what we call egg matzah. In Hebrew, it's defined as what's called matzah ashira. Matzah ashira means matzah that has been kneaded not with water, but with egg or with fruit juice. And because the process of chimutz, of becoming chometz, is different for that type of matzah, therefore it doesn't fall into the normal category of matzah. However, by the Sfardim, there's no issue whatsoever to eat egg matzah. By the Ashkenazim, that's most of us. I'm not sure if there are any Sfardim in the school, but most of us hold that we can't have egg matzah on Pesach at all, because there is a chashash, there's a concern, according to a couple of the opinions, that egg matzah may in fact actually be chometz because of the process, the chemical process in the coming together of the fruit juice and the flour. And if that's the case, we've got to be careful. However, whilst we say it might be chometz and therefore we don't eat it, it's not chometz. Egg matzah that is made Pesach dik which is good enough for Sfardim, is not chometzdik. It's not chometz. It's just we're not allowed to eat it. That's why it says on the box, for the sick and the infirm, right? Whatever the sick and the infirm are. I think a lot of people like egg matzah, so maybe they feel sick and infirm when they eat before they eat it, and then they feel okay afterwards. But the point is that you can use that. An egg matzah, when you use it as part of your meal, you can make hamotzi on it. Normally, you wouldn't make hamotzi on egg matzah. You would make a berei min or not. But because you're going to use it for your meal, so you can use it to make hamotzi. Therefore, on Friday night, take 2 egg matzahs and use that. Then you don't have to worry about any chometz. On Shabbos day, early, before 10 o'clock, because it's considered as if it may in fact be something like chometz. Therefore, what do? We don't eat it after 10 o'clock. So before 10 o'clock, take 2 egg matzahs and make hamotzi on it. You've now had your 2 su'udot. But there is a kula. There is a leniency when it comes to Sudah Shlishit that is brought in the Shulchan Aruch. And the leniency for Sudah Shlishit is that in the case of where you can't or you don't have bread, then you know what? It's okay that you can fulfill your mitzvah with something else. And you will see now on the screen what that is. Says the Shulchan Aruch. The ideal is you should have your Sudah Shlishit with bread. For Yesh Omrim, there are those who say, there are those who say you can use it from any of the 5 types of grain. Now remember, V'yesh Omrim. Remember this concept of V'yesh Omrim that we spoke about earlier means that generally we could even paskin like this. We could hold like this. V'yesh Omrim. There are those who say, Sheyachol la'asot b'dvarim shemelafetim b'hem apat kebasar v'dagim. He says, maybe we can always use things that you normally would eat with bread. Not with bread. You're not having the bread. You're just having like meat or fish. Avaloi b'peiros. But not with fruit. So there's a certain level of importance to the food that you're going to have at Sudah Shlishit. V'yesh Omrim, there are those who say da'afilu b'peirot. There are those that you can even do it with fruit. And the reality says v'svara rishona ikar. The same thing. The first opinion is really the main opinion, that you've got to do it with bread. And then it says, and this is so important, ela imkain hu sovea b'yoter, unless he's very full. And then comes the Ramah, Reb Moshe Isserles, comes to save us, and he says, or in a time when it's impossible to eat bread. What's the time when it's possible to eat bread? That's when EREV Pesach falls on Shabbos. She'asur lo, it's forbidden to him, le'echol pat, to eat bread, le'achar mincha, after the mincha. We can't eat bread because we've got to stop eating. It's already still the morning. And if that's the case, therefore we can't. So what can we do? What should we do? Our Sudah Shlishit can be fruit. Our Sudah Shlishit can maybe be a little bit of roll mops, something, some fish, some meat, something. But it can't be, we can't eat matzah because we're not allowed to eat matzah on the day before Pesach. There are many who say that you can have Kneidlach, you can have certain things. Not everybody agrees that even though they're made out of matzah, since they're not matzah proper, they're not considered to fall into that same category. Why do we have the category of not eating matzah on the day before Pesach? And the point is so that we go into Pesach and into the Seder, and we're about to eat the mitzvah of matzah. We do it b'tayavon, with a great appetite, with the desire, with the need to taste this matzah, which we haven't tasted for basically a year. And so therefore we see, at this point, we've been through this EREV Pesach that Chaliot v'Shabbos, this EREV Pesach that falls out on Shabbos, and we saw a number of things. We saw that we've got to make sure that we careful with our Tanit Bechorot. We saw that we've got to be careful with our B'dikat Chametz, and the B'dikat Chametz is like a long process. It starts on the Thursday night. It continues on Friday, but it doesn't complete itself on Friday. And on the Shabbos itself is where it's completed at 10:45, where we do the Kol Chamira. And that's how we complete it. And just to remind everyone, I'll just show you that the graphic makes it easier to understand. And that is there's the graphic, the search. the Friday morning and the Shabbat morning. Then Shabbos, meaning we've got all what to do, leftover bread, the Sudashi shit. And so we said, we've got two solutions. The first one is what we call matzah ashira. That is the egg matzah. That is the one it seems to be that we should be going with. We can use it for the first 2 meals. We've got to eat it before the time. We can no longer eat chometz. Okay, as we said, because the matzah is asur, is forbidden on Pesach Ashkenazim. And it's an amazing thing. The Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said that what you should be careful with is to not allow even the egg matzah to come into contact with vessels, with your Pesach Tika vessels. Not that there's a real major problem with it, but Pesach be strict with everything. So be strict with the matzah ashira as well, to be strict with the egg matzah as well. And finally, we said we can even use ordinary, we can use challah, we can use bread. The question is, how should we do it? So ideally, you have it only at the beginning of your seudah, because you're going to be cooking, you're going to have anyway Pesach Tika food. Have it outside where it's easy to get rid of. Use disposables, and in that way, really engage in the EREV in this time of Pesach, which is quite complicated. But once we understand what we've got to do, we understand, and it's so much less complicated. But one of the beauties, mamish beauties of Pesach this year is that normally EREV Pesach, it is a tumult. Everyone's going crazy. We haven't got this ready. We got to get the kneidlach. They're falling, they're big, they're small. Everybody's comparing, their kneidlach with their bobber's kneidlach, and the inside, the outside, and soft and lonely. Or you name it, it's all happening. EREV Pesach is a crazy, crazy time. This year, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us an unbelievable gift. And the gift is that we go into Shabbos, and that's it. There's no more. We can't do anything more. So all we got to do is use that Shabbos as preparation for our Seder. To go in a calm, wonderful, easy way. So EREV Pesach, that which falls out on Shabbos, whilst it is a time of quite a lot of stuff that we've got to make sure we get right before, the actual Shabbos itself is such a beautiful space, because it gives us the opportunity to really connect with Pesach. And more often than not, we don't connect with Pesach, EREV Pesach, because we're so worried about the Seder. And if we can go into that way with a relaxed and an understanding of what we have to do, then indeed our Pesach will be even more meaningful. Thank you everybody for joining. Please God, we will continue with some stuff on the Seder next week. We'll go into a more understanding some of the paragraphs within the Haggadah itself, and on a hashkafic level, on an emunah level, and a whole lot of other beautiful things. Bezrat Hashem, looking forward to seeing you. Thank you for joining.